Hi everyone, welcome to this week's Ask an Event Pro with Events.com. I'm Julie Vitolo, Director of Business Development, and this week I have the absolute pleasure of speaking to Kirsten Fleming, the Race Director of the Scotiabank Calgary Marathon. Hi Kirsten, how are you today?
Hi, good Julie, how are you?
I'm doing great, thanks. Thank you so much for being here with us today. I thought we'd start off with some quick lightning round questions, if that's all right with you, just to get the ball rolling.
Bring it on.
So what do you prefer, Kirsten? Do you prefer trail running or road racing?
Oh, both. Trail running on the weekends, road racing during the week.
Perfect. What about for electrolyte gel or tablet? What would you choose?
Cherry cola tablets every single time.
And what's your go-to running shoe?
Brooks Trail Runner for the Cascadia, and if I'm on the road, it's Asics.
Fantastic. I'm a Saucony girl myself, but I like the Asics as well. So, Kirsten, let me ask you, how did you get started in the endurance industry?
As a runner, I was a runner for a long time. I didn't even consider myself a runner. It was more like fake it till you make it, but really wanted to be a runner. I have a journalism background and came from TV, but my first sort of interaction with the Calgary Marathon was as an MC at some of their events because my former broadcasting station was the broadcast partner. And then I went overseas and I got really into running with a big club there and got roped into doing some volunteer organizing of the Dubai Creek Strider half marathon, which is now one of the largest half marathons on that side of the world. No thanks to me, they have a really committed committee. When I came back, I found out that people got paid to organize races, which was like blew my mind. So I started doing some contract work and helping with the media relations for the Calgary Marathon when the former marketing director was here. And in a very strange twist of fate, she called me one afternoon and asked if she could take me for dinner and pick my brain because she was leaving her job at the Calgary Marathon and moving to Dubai. And so I went for dinner with her, and she ended up convincing me that this could be the perfect job for me. And I applied. And didn't get a call for quite some time, and then I see chair of the board, because this is a not-for-profit society, in the middle of the street, and I had a glass of wine at lunch, and I recognized him from Ironman 70.3 because I'd met him through that, and I literally stopped him in the middle of the street, and I said, I applied for this position, and you should hire me because nobody will do a better job. And he was just like, okay, who are you? And he went back, and I later found out, called a recruiter and said, we need to interview this woman. And yeah, I ended up going for a couple of interviews, and they had really wanted to get someone in the job right away. And I was actually running in the Marathon du Médoc in France, the wine marathon with my girlfriend, and so they kept trying to nail me down for an interview, and I think that made me even a little bit like more of an interesting candidate. They were like, oh, she's off running this like wine marathon. And when I came back, the day I came back, I had a job interview. I had prepared on the flight and was like obsessed with getting this job. Many teeny tiny bottles of wine later and practice interview questions with my girlfriend. Yeah, I was hired, and it's been 3 years this October. So definitely not an expert by any means, but it's like a dream job, and I feel that everything I did before this just led me to my position at the Calgary Marathon.
That's fantastic. And Kirsten, as you know, this year I had the pleasure of being at the Scotiabank Calgary Marathon, and you can truly see the passion in everything that you do, and you're so phenomenal. So it was really nice to see you in action, and they certainly picked the right candidate for the job.
Thank you.
Let me ask you, Kirsten, what are 3 ways that the Calgary Marathon stays fresh and relevant after being around for 50 years?
I think the 50-year history is part of the magic. It's this race has really grown up while the city of Calgary has grown up. So obviously there's been just a tremendous amount of change in this city over 50 years. And the race, which was started by 2 people who are still on our committee to this day, has this real like grassroots feel, a real community feel, and now it's this it is a big city race, and it has a lot of the big city race features, but it's managed to grow up over those 50 years as the communities around us have grown up. So it stayed fresh for the people locally because we've just seen the city change and evolve so much over the years that if you come back from one year to the next, the communities are evolving and the people who live there are changing all the time. So that, I think, has really, helped shape what the race is today. And certainly innovating. I mean, we are constantly looking at ways, like most race directors, I would say, to keep our participants engaged and give them something new. And it really has to be about, we know our Calgarians and the people regionally are our bread and butter, the people that come back, they put it on their calendar every year. So we want them to be delighted and surprised. So we're always looking at ways that we can do that. And innovation often comes through partnerships. So strong partnerships, I would say, is the other aspect of how we stay fresh. Working with people who are passionate also about the race industry, whether that's vendors, registration companies, metal companies, community associations. We're always looking, the upcoming year, for example, is the Year of Music in Calgary in 2016. We're going to be hosting the Junos. So we already engage about 25 different bands and local musicians and talent on the route, but we're looking at how we can coordinate with Tourism Calgary and all of our local festivals to make sure that we're highlighting that local talent and weaving in that theme of Year of Music into the race so that it's a part of the calendar year and it integrates into what else is happening in the city. So yeah, I would say just the fact that we've grown up in Calgary, and as the city's matured, the race has, innovation and partnership are key.
Fantastic. Now, there's so many marathons out there, Kirsten. Can you tell me a little bit about what makes the Calgary Marathon so unique?
Yeah, I mean, we think it's pretty special, obviously. And like I said, it's been developed by, it was founded by two people who are still on our committee to this day. And despite it being a pretty big city race, it's, there's 2 full-time staff. And like most races and most events, the heart, soul, and spirit, it lies in the volunteers. And we have really, really long-term engaged volunteers that I often say, like, they should be paid. They do an incredible amount of work, and they're just like the heart and the brain of the organization, including, Doug Kyle, who started this event back in the 60s, primarily because he wanted to go to the Olympics, and he thought that if he could hold a trial here in Calgary, he would have a significant advantage against all those Eastern runners. So, he's still really engaged in the committee and is at the finish line every year with his wife. And I think like that whole Western hospitality, we really play off of our brand identity. The race starts and finishes inside Stampede Park. So if you've ever been to the Calgary Stampede or watched the chuck wagons or the rodeo, the finish line is literally where the chuck wagons finish during Stampede. So it's a pretty spectacular finish. And it feels big, but there's also this really awesome community spirit. I mean, the 15,000 participants, and everyone seems to know each other. It's kind of like Calgary is a big city, but there still is a lot of small town feel about it, and the race kind of almost has that similar vibe.
That's fantastic, and Kirsten, you're so correct. The hospitality that Calgary has, and especially that your event has, is just absolutely phenomenal. So it was absolutely incredible to witness that.
And who doesn't like getting their finisher's medal from a cowboy or a Stampede princess?
Absolutely. Let me ask you a question, Kirsten. On race day, what's the most common mistake that someone can make, or that can happen?
Common mistake, I think every race organizer would say, or runner even would say, that common mistake that the rookie runner will make is going out too fast. We see it all the time. I would say my most common mistake is that I forget to eat, but I have a lovely marketing manager who is constantly stuffing a granola bar into my back pocket or handing me a smoothie on race day. So she helps with that. And then a common mistake that happens, I guess something that we face every year, is we still try and do a mass awards at the event following once the elites have started to come in. And because we have a 5K, 10K, half marathon, full marathon, and a 50K, we do awards on the main stage for all of those events. Because as I mentioned, you finish inside the Stampede grounds, and there's stands, and not that we've filled them at 17,000, but we have capacity for 17,000 people. So the stands are filled with family and friends. And obviously our elite athletes, you know, a lot of them are getting drug tested if they've competed in a national championship. And we have this Groundhog Day every year. We cannot get the awards on time. So that's something that I am, you know, bound to fixing. But it's just a common mistake is that we post what time the awards are going to be, and people obviously like want to get on with their day or do other things, and we are constantly always running late on the awards and have been trying to tackle that for I think 4 or 5 years. And then and I guess something that's come up a couple of times, not just at the Scotiabank Calgary Marathon, but we have a few other events, and we had one just this past weekend, the UFC Dino Dash, and we've been caught in this a couple of times where if we don't have our professional musician or singer that shows up on time or doesn't listen to, you know, the fact that traffic is going to be backed up, we always have somebody singing "O Canada" before our events. And more than once, we've been caught at the start line, you know, 4 minutes before the races start, trying to iTunes the best possible version of "O Canada" and stick it into a speaker. And this past weekend it happened, and it was like we were at a ballpark because the "O Canada" that we chose was like, "Take me out to the ball game" version of Canada. And I was just looking at Aaron like, oh, like, here we go again. So, you know, you just got to take everything in stride. And we often say that, my mentor told me, that as long as the participants think at any event, like, you should be like a duck, like, you know, smooth sailing, super calm, and then underneath your little feet are just going like this all the time, and that's what we strive for.
Well, you certainly seem calm on race day all the time, and are absolutely flawless. So, what about some essentials? Can you tell me 5 essentials that you keep in your bag, let's say, on race day to help you get through the day?
Well, I used to wear this like silly reflective vest and pockets, and it can be quite cool here in the morning at the end of May when our race takes place here in Calgary. So often there's a lot of layering. And then I went to Scotiabank Toronto Waterfront, have a great relationship with our friends there. And I was so jealous of Charlotte Brooks, who's the operations director at Scotiabank Toronto Waterfront. She had this backpack. She kept taking it off and all the things that were in there, and it was like revolutionary to me. I'm like, a backpack. So last year I had my little backpack and everything's in its compartments. And I guess the essentials would be, this is a bit vain, but lip balm, because I always end up getting really dry lips from talking. Extra speaking notes, our emergency response plan, sunglasses, because when we get there at 4 in the morning, the sun is not out, and I made that mistake once of not having them and really regretted it. And zip ties. I'm obsessed with zip ties. There's zip ties everywhere in my house, in my car, like everywhere. They can fix almost any problem.
That's great. Well, Kirsten, I think that wraps up our quick series on Ask an Event Pro. Thank you so much for joining us today. Again, everyone, that's Kirsten Fleming from the Scotiabank Calgary Marathon. We'd love to have you tune in next Thursday at 11:15 a.m. Pacific. We'll be interviewing Christine Adams from In Motion Events. And in the meantime, fantastic. We'd love to have you follow us on Events.com. And thanks so much, everyone. Have a fantastic afternoon. And thanks again, Kirsten.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.